Hey guys, welcome back. Took a short little intermission break, but here soon, David Lifsitz will be joining us, and we're going to be highlighting his debut novel, Just Bounce It. So just bear with us for the next few minutes as we wait for him to jump in with us, and we will dive right in. Again, for those of you who are just jumping in, we're going to be doing a session under the cover with Red with author David Lifsitz, highlighting Just Bounce It. He'll be popping in any minute now. Thank you guys so much for joining. I appreciate your support, each and every one of you. Again, we're just waiting for David to pop in. We're just sending the invite, so he should be coming up. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you guys. Thanks so much for popping in. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be highlighting Just Bounce It by David Lifsitz. Thank you for the like. Thank you for the share, guys. Let's see. I'm going to start yelling Marco Polo if you don't pop in here. Oh, David. Come out wherever you are. I'm a little bit early jumping in, so just bear with me, guys. Gotta get him up on here. Just waiting for David to join us. Okay, well, while we wait for him, I will go ahead and let you guys know that we are going to be highlighting Just Bounce It. Just Bounce It is a sports rec. It has to do with two young ladies coming of age, kind of finding themselves as they develop into young adulthood. The story of them finding ways to empower each other, learning to work together on a team, and all of the success that follows along with that. As soon as we can get David in here with us. There he is. All right. Perfect.
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. You are absolutely fine. No worries at all.
Coming in hot, as they say. I went out to grab something to eat and got stuck in traffic, and then just kind of rushed up in this heat out here
Oh
to
no.
get up. So,
Oh no. That's all right. No worries. No worries.
oops. Okay, I'm there. I think I'm there, right?
Yeah, you're in here with us.
All right.
There we go. All right. So for those of you who are already joined in, we are going over Just Bounce It. We have with us David Lifsitz, and he's going to be giving us the inside scoop of his creation. So I did do a little bit of an overlay right before you jumped in. Just Bounce It from my take is basically two young ladies' journey into kind of not really adulthood, but finding themselves becoming young ladies. It is the story of them working through several challenges, not just through high school, but becoming part of a new team. They're learning a whole new sport. And in this, they are finding out how to work together with each other, how to empower each other, and I'm all for it. I love a story that has an an amazing outcome. You know what I mean? And like I said, in the end of this book, a lot of people say when you hear the ending was my favorite, a lot of people kind of take that the wrong way. But with this book, it comes full circle because you start with the young ladies where they quite literally are just kind of messing around, playing around with each other on the beach. You know what I mean? They're just playing lacrosse, and a coach happens to notice them and identifies their skill, and, you know what I mean, and guides them into her team, which develops the outcome of the whole story. So if you want to, we'll go ahead and I'll turn the book over to you, and you can kind of give us a little bit more detail into the story and what inspired you to write Just Bounce It.
Of course, I would love to. And thank you for the overview and having me on your show. I know you've
Yeah,
got a lot of people on. It's kind of fun to be on one of these. And I'm enjoying just starting off talking about it. But yeah, my book is my baby, like every author's book is their baby. And, it came about 4 years ago. The story came about 4 years ago. And it came about, actually, what you see on the cover there is a picture of my daughter and my niece walking on the beach. I took the photograph of the sunset. I took the photograph of the two of them on the beach, and the one holding the lacrosse stick is actually a college student who's a designer who helped piece the two together to make my cover. So very excited about that. And they're supposed to portray the two young ladies that you're talking about, Ella Jean and Sam. And I don't want to give away the whole story, but I'll give you the concept, as you said, because I want people to read the book. But
yeah, absolutely.
the story is really about those two girls and their families. One of them is Samantha. Samantha lives with her parents on a farm, and she's a very strong, talented, outgoing individual, very happy-go-lucky young lady. And she lives next door to Ella Jean. And Ella Jean lives with her father. Unfortunately, Ella Jean suffers from a severe case of sort of a lack of self-esteem. And that was brought upon by her mother leaving their family at a very young age. When she was very young, her mother walked out, didn't want to have the family life. So Ella Jean sort of grew up with Sam's mother as her guide and her father and Samantha as her best friend, but really continued to suffer with her introverted sort of personality. And as you said, they kind of are working their family farm, hanging out, going to school, and a very simple life in the small beach town of Lewis, Delaware. And they happen to have a meeting with a woman who is on vacation. She's on vacation because she is a single mom. She's struggling because her husband passed away a few years ago, and she's raising two kids on her own. And she's a lacrosse coach at a very prestigious high school up in Wilmington, Delaware. And if anybody knows the Delaware area, the private school system is very competitive. And so she can't win the big game, and her principal basically wants to fire her. And she's just struggling how to be a better coach, how to be a better teacher, how to be a better parent. And so she goes on this vacation, and through this one in a million chance interaction that they happen on the beach, it kind of leads to a series of events where their families come together with other things, and they all sort of work together to solve each other's problems. And there is a happy ending. It's not what most people think how it exactly ends. You might start to read the book and say, "Oh, I know exactly how it's going to end," but you don't.
No.
And yeah, it's a very happy story. So that's what I wrote about, and I got lucky because like everybody else, you work in life. I was raising kids a number of years ago. I tried to write a book about 20 years ago, and got wrapped up in coaching kids, which is sort of how I got into this story too. My kids, just raising my kids, and work got really busy. And so I ended up getting into the situation where I decided to put the book down. And then this idea came up about 4 years ago, and COVID hit, and I was knocked out of a job. So I had plenty of time to go ahead and do my writing, which was really great. And so that got me to get it done faster. So.
I'm so glad that you did. And I also like because you know what I mean, like I know that we haven't really had a chance to talk directly a whole lot in detail. But just based on some of the things that I've talked to you with, and some of the things that I do know, you were actually able to kind of put a more relatable personal experience into this book. Because if I'm not mistaken, you were actually a coach too. Wasn't that correct?
Yeah, so I was a coach, and one of the things I found is that especially working with young girls. I mean, as a man, it's hard to admit I'm not a young woman, but I had raised two girls, and I know all the issues that they had growing up. And one of the things
Yeah.
I found is that coaching a lot of these girls' teams is that kids came to these sports, whatever the sport was, with a real lack of self-confidence. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Very insecure. Sometimes their parents put them in these sports and they just, went along with it. But through playing the sport, through learning the sport, through hanging out with other friends in the sport, by the end of the season, most of those young ladies grew a level of confidence and a bunch more friends and a more feeling of inclusion. And so I always felt good about that, and then you go to the next year and you get different kids on the team and it takes them a while to get to mix. But my goal was always to have them have fun and feel better about themselves. So that's sort of how I got to this. And that's sort of where the story came up. A part of the story came up is that I wanted Ella Jean to solve some of her problems through that team sport of lacrosse, through having the camaraderie of other people to play on their team. And I think it kind of helped me write the story because I could feel as much as I could what they went through, growing up. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I can kind of relate to it. And I'm sure that any young lady or, I mean, a woman now that has ever played any kind of an organized sport when they were younger. Like I know for me, my teenage years I was awkward. I was awkward as could be. I mean, I did not have the best self-confidence in the world. But softball, it kind of, that's what introduced my confidence. I mean, it allowed me to meet and make friends that I otherwise wouldn't have known or been able to get used to. And that opened so many more doors for me. So to be able to put myself kind of in the shoes of Sam, what I mean, so to speak, and reminisce in many ways. I mean, taking myself back to those days when I was on that team and I experienced those same issues and got that same kind of uplifting empowerment. And so I love that because I think that it's a different from what a lot of people push out nowadays. Like this is something that me and my daughter actually kind of read together. And so I loved that that I was able to get a book from an indie author that I was able to share with one of my children,
Mhm.
because she's going through the same thing. She's playing a sport for the first time this year, and it's completely new to her. And so she's got that same issues with the self-confidence and struggling with worrying about if she's going to be good enough or if she's going to get used to the game or the rules and if she's going to succeed. And so to be able to share a story like Just Bounce It with my daughter who is currently going through those same things, it was huge. And I love that I was able to do that because, like I said, a lot of books that I get from my authors, I can't share with them like that. And this happened to be one that I could. And so I'm incredibly grateful for that.
I'll tell you a funny story, but I was looking for ARC readers when I first read. I didn't really understand the whole process of publishing. I'm learning so much more on Book Talk about some of the mistakes I made and some of the things I'm going to do in my next books as they're coming out. But I had a lot of I was very lucky when my daughters were growing up. There were a million kids in the neighborhood. Then they grew up, and now there's a million more kids in the neighborhood. And I have a couple of 10, 12, 13-year-old girls who live next door and two doors down. And they read my book as a sort of drafting arc and gave me some thoughts and opinions and everything. And I found that they loved it, which was like really exciting to hear. The people at that age are really loving the book. And then I gave it to some parents of kids who wanted to read it. And they said exactly what you did. They said, "Oh my God, it's like you could read this at any age, whether you're the kid or you're the adult, because and again, it's just my style. Everyone has a different style. I wrote a very wholesome book, I believe. I don't have any, crazy love scenes. I have simple romance in it and some kid romance and some adult romance, but it's
And
very, very
it's
light."
things that you can relate to because it's things that you go through. You know what I mean? Like realistically, as a young teenager, as a young adult, you experience the exact same things that the characters in this book go through, quite literally. And I love that. I love that it puts more of a realistic spin. You know what I mean on the story.
Yeah, it's just, but again, I'm just trying to be writing what I know, what I like, and I found there's a very big audience so far. People who are really appreciative of the wholesome style.
Yeah.
They're not looking for the spicy romance. There's a huge audience for spicy romance. That's fine. It's great. It's a huge audience for fantasy and everything else. And as you know, there's a million different genres. But this is the one I fit into for this book, which is kind of funny because most books that I read tend to be things like a Grisham story or a Clancy story or spy movies and things like that. Although I did read Yellowface and a bunch of other big books this summer, and I liked a lot of them. I wasn't so sure. In fact, that one was actually more interesting than I thought it was, and it wasn't what I expected at all. So I didn't want to go through a book review of that one. But the funny thing about that story is it talks about an author's plight, and it's kind of where we are as indie authors, and trying to figure out ways to market our story, get people to understand our story, because there's a million books out there in the bookshelf, and you want people to spend the time and appreciate yours. So this is a great opportunity, just talking to you, to get a chance to
Yeah.
get my story out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love being able to do this with authors, especially with the authors like you that seem really invested in getting their work out there and you know what I mean, and making sure that their book gets noticed. And that was 100% my goal with what we wanted to do with Just Bounce It, because it, like I said, with a lot of my other authors, it deserves it. It deserves to be put out there. It is a very wholesome story. And like you said, it's one that is good for all ages. You know what I mean? Like you can sit down like I did and read through this book with your children, and it's not, you don't have to worry about any kind of crazy surprises like you said. You know what I mean? Like no spice dibble dabbled in there. No, it is a wholesome sports story that involves around two girls coming of age and finding themselves and strengthening their friendship and learning how to work together and basically it's you want that's the ultimate goal for I feel like all of our children. You know, you want your children to succeed. You want them to, even though they go through some hardships in life, there's going to be heartbreaks, there's going to be tears shed, they're going to lose. But in the end, our goal is to pick them up and encourage them in ways that lets them know that they can succeed. Whatever they put their minds to, that they can get through. And that's what I feel like the girls in this story, their whole family is affected by it. Their success not only affects them, but it affects their entire livelihoods, their whole family's livelihoods.
And
So
in
I
the book,
love the
the parents are
wholesomeness of it.
struggling too. That's the thing. The parents are struggling from a family farm, and that's something that people are aware of. But I took a lot of vacations down in Lewis, Delaware, which is where the book is portrayed, and that place when I used to go there 20 years ago was farms galore. And now it's about 10% of those farms, and it's all been built up into homes and developments. And, these family farmers are losing their places because they can't afford to keep them going. And that's sort of talked about in the book, too. But it really is about the friendship and the relationship and the love and the trust and the development. And just two kids, as you said, coming of age, going to the arcades, doing the things on the boardwalks, eating ice cream, being, kids as kids, and going to deal with the situations that are coming up around them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also love that you personalized your cover, because and absolutely nothing wrong with it. I love that all indie authors that I've met and had the pleasure of talking with so far, that I mean, you guys each do something different. But you, even like you said, you went as far as even putting your own daughter on the cover to personalize it in a sense that kind of tells your readers that not only do your characters go through what they do, but you and your family have had similar experiences. And that helps a lot of readers be able to connect with you on a personal level as an author.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that too. That is true, and it's you've had a lot of other people on your show, and other people talk on daily on TikTok, and what it is it's as an indie author, you want people to get inside your book and feel something from it. And the people who have written up really nice reviews on Amazon and Goodreads for me, and it's just ridiculous how nice they are. I'm still waiting for all the bad ones to come out, but it's really nice to have good ones at this point. But they have appreciated that simple story. They all felt good. I had one woman indicate that she had what I had, which was like tears of happiness when the story's over. And I sort of compare this, I jokingly compare this to in one or two of my TikToks about like the Lizzie McGuire movie, if anybody ever remembers that one, or even the Climb with Miley Cyrus, where you have these really nice stories, and at the end you walk out of the movie theater with a little bit of tears in your eyes, but they're tears of happiness that someone succeeded and made it through something. And that's sort of how I wrote this, with that same sort of mentality and frame of mind. When
Yes,
I wrote it.
yeah,
So.
no, I absolutely agree. That's like I like kind of I said in the beginning. You mean like a lot of people when they hear somebody say, "Well, the ending was my favorite," they automatically jump to the conclusion they didn't like the book. No, the ending of this book was my favorite for that exact reason, because by the time I had reached the end, even though it wasn't what I expected it to be, it was a wholesome feeling. I keep reverting back to that because that's what it makes you feel. It allows you to be able to kind of reminisce back to your own experiences, your own childhood, you know what I mean, becoming a teenager, And like I said, it kind of dibble dabbles into, I mean, the girls as their little love interests that they have throughout high school, and the all the kind of experiences that you have with, Mean Girls and other teams, and just things that are obstacles that are being thrown in their way. And each time they're able to overcome these set obstacles with each other and through each other. And so, and again, that's another thing that I really love about this. Like I even went as far as the very second, well, the second to last paragraph in the book. I have it marked because it happens to be one of my favorite ones in the entire book. If you don't mind, I'll read it.
No, sure. As long as it's not, I try to think of what the giveaway is, but as long as it's not giving away too much, sure.
Yeah, no, actually, it just says, all it says, who could ever have imagined what would happen to us in this last year? I have no idea how our futures will play out, but I do know we will have plenty of stories to share, and that Ella Jean and I will be creating them together. So it doesn't, I mean, like it doesn't release too much, but it lets you know that the story has a full circle outcome. You know what I mean? So the girls do have they sorry, they do have a positive ending to their story. They go through so much throughout the story. They have so many things that they have to face. But ultimately, it ends with a big success. The girls, they earn every bit of the success that they receive by the end of this book. They put the work in, and it kind of just goes to show it's almost like a life lesson for the rest of us readers that pick up this book, that if you dedicate yourself into setting these goals and reaching these goals, that you will get the success that you intend to get. And that's exactly what happened with Sam and Ella Jean.
Yeah, yeah. No, again, writing the book is always fun, and getting your thoughts out, and getting your story told. The hard part, as you know now, is like marketing the book, right? How do you get people to read the book? Because it's a story that I know and I tell, but and I don't want to bombard TikTok with messages from me either, trying to promote my book. But it's funny, you go out there and put your TikTok out there as an example, and then you hit I don't know, 400 or 500 people, and then you say, "Oh my God, there's millions more people out there who need to see about my book." And how do you keep that thing going? And every time I listen to other indie authors talk about their books, it's the same thing. It's like, love our stories, which I do. I love the book. You're saying all the right words about what I tried to get out of this book, and the wholesomeness, and the family friendly, and the happy endings, and just having a good feeling, and a happy face when you're done reading it, which is what I did. And the other thing that's interesting is, again, I wrote it during COVID, and my mindset was very much, I want to get away from life. Even though this brings you back into some fun memories of yourself, you want to get away from all the craziness going on in life, and just have something simple to read that makes you feel good. And
Yes.
that was the whole story. I didn't want people to start getting stressed and depressed and whatever. I want people just to feel. I mean, there are definitely parts where you get a little sad about things, but I wanted people to feel good at the end, and it could just take them away from all the issues going on. Because even though you talk about, and I agree, that a lot of these problems start when you're kids, they don't end when you're
Yeah.
young kids. They go through our
Yeah.
whole life, right? So we're all struggling every day with different types of issues, and I think this is just a nice way to remind people that other people are there too, and
Yeah.
supporting, having your friends and others to support you is really important in that. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, and I feel like I catch myself saying this quite a bit when I do these. This community that I found, I mean, is incredibly supportive. And so to be able to kind of take a break from the crappiness of the world, like you said, there's enough problems that we face each and every day, as whether we're kids, young adults, or fully grown adults. I know there probably isn't a day that goes by that I don't struggle with at least one thing. So to be able to kind of, like you said, take a step back and just breathe, inhale, exhale, open a good book, and take a little bit of a break from reality. Dive into a character's world, and to be able to do that with a story like Just Bounce It, where it's heartwarming. I mean, you get a happy break from the world is what Just Bounce It gives you. It makes you feel hopeful in many ways.
right, and I again, I tried to be as personal as I could, and learning from all the experiences of watching, either coaching the young girls, or all the hundreds of them who came through my house for birthday parties and other events and things that we had. The way that they interacted, the issues they were going through, the discussions that I overheard, put sort of that feeling into those characters and make them relatable. So, Are there any questions coming up? It's hard. I can't keep an eye on whatever you're seeing if anything's coming up about it.
Um, I've been kind of popping over and watching them. Right now, yeah, and then again, like David said, any of you that are jumping in and joining, if you have absolutely any questions, any comments about the book, if you have any questions for David personally, feel free to drop them into the comments, and I will react to them and respond, you know what I mean, as soon as they pop up. So feel free if you guys want to know any more information or want to do more of a deep dive, feel free to drop a comment.
Yeah, it's hard. This is a I've had a couple of live sessions, but it's really hard to figure out what's going on in all these different boxes and areas and who's on, who's asking what, and also communicate at the same time. So I appreciate you, watching that type of thing. Wondering what the genre. The genre is now I see that one is a wholesome, family-friendly, sort of semi-romance story about these two girls. So I guess it's really just a wholesome, fun read. It's got a little bit of romance, but it's really the story of these two girls growing up and a lacrosse coach and how their interactions come together, how they support each other through their family and issues that they're having growing up and as a coach, and how they end up solving a lot of these things through the end through the team sport of lacrosse. Lacrosse is throughout the book, girls lacrosse, but it doesn't take over the book. It just helps bring the story together. There's a lot of elements to the story. So that's really what it's about. It's about these two girls coming of age and working hard on their challenges and issues, and this coach, a women's lacrosse coach, helping herself grow through meeting these kids and having those interactions, because she too has some issues. So that's sort of the genre, if that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that was a very good description of it. And like I said, you know, what I mean, in your overview too, like the last kind of detail in the overview, kind of lets you know that it's a story of developing relationships, unique bonds that the girls create, how their perseverance and dedication help them overcome life's obstacles and their individual life challenges. And I feel like that description in itself is the perfect description for what goes on in this book from beginning to end. Cover to cover, this book is absolutely about the development of themselves and with each other. You know what I mean? The things that they go through with their own individual lives, and like we said, as a whole as a team. Um, there's certain parts in the book where the girls where they join the new team and their team comes out, like I don't want to spoil much, but where their team comes together to show their support for their newest members in a way that is, it made me smile. You know what I mean? Like it gave me the warm fuzzies about it because I could see, you know what I mean? Like I can picture myself sitting in that gym in one of them seats, you know what I mean, while they're all up and they're dancing and they're supporting these girls and they're welcoming them in a way that makes them feel loved and feel welcome. And, you know what I mean? It makes them feel happy because I know that they were really nervous about the switch that they made. And so for a team to come together and to welcome new members the way that they did in Just Bounce it definitely gives you the warm fuzzies. So you did a very, very good job of creating a story that was realistically different in a way that you can put yourself in the character's shoes based on experiences that you may have had or that your children may have had. But ultimately, it's just a happy story, and I love that about it. You know, because like you said, a lot of people there's a big popular demand right now for like spicy books and things like that, which is fine. You know, I mean, I'm all for a good spicy book, but I also love to sit down and read a good wholesome story like this Bounce It. And like I said in the beginning of the live, my favorite part about this book was the fact that I was able to sit down and share it with my own daughter. And that kind of it actually opened the door for us to have a discussion between the two of us about the things that I went through and how I related to Just Bounce It and could relate to her. So it allowed us to bond. You know what I mean? It allowed my daughter and I to bond a little bit better in ways that we might not have if we hadn't have been able to share this story.
Yeah, it's interesting. And the other thing I have in there, which is a very small sub part of it, which is that the two girls aren't that big into social media. They are okay with it, but they're not huge into it. They like spending more quality time as individuals. And that's one of the things that I'm happy about when I see kids outside playing and doing things. It's like getting away from the computers, getting away from the phones and all that stuff that causes the stress and just being kids,
Yeah.
just going out there and being kids. And I think that sort of philosophy comes through from a lot of the things that they do, just having fun,
Yeah.
doing things. So, and that's, yeah, another interesting thing that we keep saying is whether you're 12 or you're 66 or whatever, there's a part of you that can relate to this book. And
Yep.
that's kind of nice. That's kind of nice. But
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you 100% on it because it was, I mean, you laid your goals out and you sat down and you put your goals into this book and they absolutely show. I mean, it's really well written too. I love the way that, and I actually like I won't read anything, but I'll kind of bring it up because it's broke up. You know what I mean? So I just kind of want to point out that throughout the book, each one of the sections, each one of the paragraphs is kind of broke up, which for me, I felt like it kind of made it a little bit easier for me to be able to follow along and read. I don't see a whole lot of books that are printed out like that, be it whether you planned it to happen that way or whether it happened to be an accident. I love the fact that it's broke up that way. It made it a lot easier to be able to follow along with.
yeah,
Definitely.
no, I actually intended that. I tried to make it a back and forth. It's written from it's actually written from Sam's perspective, and it's her voice through most of the book. But there are parts where you have to be the narrator and third party because she's not with the coach in some of these situations. But the idea is to flip back and forth between them and to have it come from her voice and to make it a lot of little subplots coming together at the end in one big, happy surprise ending. But I did want to make it an easy read. I've read a lot of books. I'm sure everyone has where it gets so wordy and so intricate and delicate. And boy, I praise those readers for their ability to, I mean, the writers for their ability to use the English language to write because they're fabulous. But I guess I don't have as much of the grammar skills as they have for the millions of words. But I told the story in a simple way to make it easy to read. Yeah.
You did, yeah, you absolutely did, and I commend you for the way that you wrote it. Because like you said, a lot of authors, I mean, the details and things like that. Like, don't get me wrong. Thank you for the rose. The details for a lot of authors, I love the detail that they put in. You know what I mean? I love authors that put descriptions in, but I also love it when the writing style is the way that you wrote it, where it's easy to understand. There's no, what I mean, kind of hidden innuendos throughout the book. It's what you read is what you get. And that's one of my favorite parts about books that are like, I mean, like Just Bounce It, like the one that you've written, is you can sit down and you can open it up and you can enjoy it throughout the whole thing. You can enjoy the book. It makes you feel happy. It makes you feel included. I know I personally felt very included. You know what I mean? Like at some points, it was kind of like you said, you wanted to express that you're not alone, and
Right.
that's how I felt. You know what I mean? Reading throughout Just Bounce It is.
Oh, yeah. I had a couple of, I'm going to call them men, 40s, 50s, who read it and said to me that even though it's about two girls for the main part and this woman coach for the main part, that they read it and just kind of flew through the book and it was just such an easy read and they really enjoyed it. They found that they, again, could relate to it regardless. Even if they had sons, they could relate to it as a concept. And so, again, that's all I want as an author, right? It's all you want is to make sure that a reader reads something and gets something from what you've written. And I'm happy to hear that you did and your daughter did, and that other people are finding that it's it makes them feel good and the message gets out. So now all we have to do together is find a way to get this to go viral and get 1 million books sold, and then we can have America really feeling the same way we do about the things that are going on, right?
Yes, 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 and that is the ultimate goal. I think that's, I mean, ultimately why I kind of dove into creating Under the Cover is because I want to be able to support you guys as best that I can to my best ability. And I mean, like I had told one of my previous authors, I don't request people follow me for me. I don't do that for a personal reason. I request that people follow me for each one of you because I know that for every follower I gain, that's one more person that I could put your book out to. That's one more person that I could possibly get to read your book to or recommend your book to. And to me, that is my ultimate goal. Is just to try to get each one of these amazing books out to as many people as I can possibly reach. And if I could, I mean, with each one of these videos, I mean, they vary anywhere between 200 to 800 views sometimes, and that's that many more people that this book has reached, and that's the goal. And each time that I'm able to do that, and especially with this one, I love
Yeah.
that. That's mission
Yeah.
accomplished.
No, no, and I love it too. And the talk show format of asking questions and going back and forth with the author is really helping to me because when I do my own videos, it's like me talking to myself on the wall and trying to tell a message. And I know I'm interesting, but I'm not always that interesting. But having you be there and helping us indie authors is really, really great. So I'm glad that you put together this little show and have your Red Riding Hood thing going on, and it's really helpful to all of us. So
Well,
yeah.
I'm glad because your guys support comes back tenfold. It really does. You know what I mean, and the fact that I'm able to do this for each one of you guys, it makes my heart happy. You know, what I mean, like I said, this is the goal, and so the fact that we were able to come on today and just announce Just Bounce It and be able to push it out there to everybody that's joined us today. That's that many more people that we reached that possibly didn't know about it before. And for those of you who are joining, Just Bounce It by David Lifsitz. It's a very open, uplifting, and heartwarming story of two girls coming of age, learning to find themselves and to help each other and their family. Um, it's a book for all ages. um, so it's not one that, you know, I mean, you don't have to. It's a nice break from the triggers and the stress and the worries and tears, and you know what I mean, and it's nice to be able to step into a book that is round and just makes you feel fuzzy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was it. And again, all books can't be everything to everybody. I know everyone has a huge TBR and they're always trying to find ways to get through that and then they add more books to it. But I appreciate anybody who wants to add this to their TBR because I do think, in between reading all their other books, they're going to love sitting down and reading this one. And it's
Yes.
going to give them the, and whether it's, it has a beach scene, it's great on the beach, but it's also wonderful on a fall day, curling up somewhere, or on a winter's day, depending on where you live. If, where I am, in the snow, and some people in Arizona, there's never snow, but it's a fun book to just sit down and as you said, sometimes read it with your kids. I think that's great. I think that's a really nice thing. I got into my first retailer this week, and it was actually my local bookstore. And I said to myself, wow, this is great to be there. And I said to him, okay, can I put up some promotional stuff? He said, sure, you can put one little flyer here. But I said, can I put a table up with, whatever signs? He goes, I don't have any room. And so I go to the bookstore and I said, my book is on the shelf and I see it. And he sold two, I think, a couple of days ago. But I said, it's just one of a million books on the shelf, right? As you keep saying. And you got to get people to, talk about it, get out there and read it, and keep spreading the word. And that's going to get people to come into the retail places and ask for it, and hopefully go to, the Amazons and other places to go find it. So this is really great. And again, any other questions out there that people might have, happy to answer them. I am literally an open book when it comes to talking about my book, or anything else, I suppose. But
No, and I love that because I've noticed that you've, I mean, kind of been pouring yourself into a little bit more to try to get your book out there. You know, what I mean, you've been, Angie said, are you on Facebook?
uh, I am on Facebook. Um, I don't know. It's probably under David Lifsitz. I don't think I use my Sparty Pants author except for on TikTok right now. So I don't, because I wasn't an author when I set up my Facebook account. So yes, as David Lifsitz, I am on Facebook.
Okay, perfect. And then for those of you who might just be joining in, Just Bounce It. It is available on Kindle and Amazon. And it's totally worth the read. It really is. It's a nice break for reality, and it's a good feel good story. And I love that you are so focused on, you know, I mean, your wife and your daughters. Your dedication was lovely. You know, I mean, anytime that an author, it does that, they get published and they don't, sometimes once an author gets published, they kind of let it go to their head a little bit. But you guys, you stay humble in a way that makes me proud of you, you know, because you're doing, like you said, you do all of this on your own. So it's a constant struggle to get the word out, to put your book out there, to spread it to different people, and to be able to do things like this and then also share the lives and share it with other people, get them to promote it. That is the biggest way that we as indie supporters can help show the love to authors such as yourself. I often tell a lot of people that when they ask, what are some ways that I can help support indies? By recommending their books and by leaving the reviews. That is the two of the biggest ways that I've noticed is just word of mouth. spreading their words, recommending it to as many people as you can if you like the book. Like
Right.
you said, not everything is for everybody, but if it happens to be a book that you like, put that word out there to as many people as you can. And I promise that author is going to be so appreciative because it is hard. It is super hard to promote your own books, especially if you publish them by yourself. And a lot of you indie authors, that's your biggest struggle. And so, like I said, if I can help put that out to just that many more people, then I feel like, I mean, we've accomplished our goal. And I'll also be going and putting up a YouTube channel here soon.
Right.
Because each one of my live interviews that we complete here on TikTok, I'll be posting over on YouTube as well.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and again, with hopes that maybe if we put it on another platform and open it up to another platform, we can get that many more views. Because if we jump over there and 10 more people view that, that's 10 more people that could possibly go and get this book.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Well, I'm just waiting for Good Morning America to call me, and then I'll be, once I get interviewed on that show, maybe I'll get a more viral. But I think the issue is indie authors don't have money, right? They're just normal people like you and I, and we're just
Yeah.
trying to get our story out there. And I don't want to cry poor. I got a daughter who's a senior in college I got to pay for, and I got a wedding coming up in 2 months for my other daughter I got to pay for. So I don't have the money to market this thing, to go out and spend billions to throw it out there in TV. So these are perfect opportunity and audiences. The other thing someone told me, which was kind of nice, a woman in my town who read the book said, I'm going to have other women read it. We're going to get together as our book club. And then can you come talk to us? And I said, yeah, I'd love to come talk to you. So
That's
if people want
awesome.
to read this as a book club, do it, And if they want me to come on something like this and have a Zoom call or a chat with them where they get together and talk about the book, I'm always happy to do that too. Because like you said, it's the very simple way to communicate my message. But happy to do it and happy to support anybody who wants to read my book. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there you go. So, any of you who happen to be watching or have jumped in, if any of you are a big big indie author supporters, and you'd like to help share the book, if you know what I mean, go check it out, read the book, recommend it to others. If you've got any kind of a podcast or anything like that you do, David said that he'd be more than willing to join you on it and talk about the book. It's little things like this that help these authors the most. And for me to be able to do that and to be able to receive books like these, because this was one that he actually gifted to me. David was, I had the honor of receiving this book in my mail. And let me tell you, I was so stoked when it came in. You know what I mean? I got it with the bookmark that is the same
Same image.
background. Yeah,
Yeah.
same sunset as on the cover of the book. Um,
It's funny. I don't
so
know if people do the dog ear thing or put the bookmarks in. So it's always a question. Yeah, happy to sign books, although it's hard to figure that one out because it's just how to sign it and send it to somebody is always a trick for me. Someone in the chat I'm just reading now. Sorry, you says they have a podcast, which would be great to add to that too. Angie, if we can connect, I guess that's what you're asking. I'd be happy to get on your podcast. If you can try me through Sparty Pants Author on TikTok, I can connect, or go to my Facebook page. As you said, if you've done that, I'll connect with you too. But I hope that you and I hope that Red here gets 1 million followers and gets all kinds of things, so that every indie author comes after me can be very popular and can be a win-win for everybody. To
And I
get the
love
message.
that because ultimately, at the end of the day, we're all in this together. Like I said, for every follow that I get, that's one more person that I can help promote your guys' books to. For every follow that you guys drop to David's account, that's one more person that he has the opportunity to tell his book to. So David Lifsitz, Sparty Pants author here on TikTok. You can jump over. Feel free to give him a follow. The book is amazing and it is absolutely worth the read. It's absolutely worth the download. Um,
Right, and
I
it's
I know
free
that
on
I
Kindle
know
and
I
Amazon.
say
So yeah.
that. Sorry, I was just gonna say I know that I happen to say that quite a few times. You know, what I mean, throughout my lives, but I schedule these live author interviews with authors that when I read their book and their book touches me. You know what I mean? It makes an impact on me personally in one way or another. That's what leads me to scheduling these interviews. You know what I mean? And so to be able to help you guys after you have helped me is substantial. Like Angie said, me and Red are best friends. Yeah, she does she also does, you know what I mean, like she said, a podcast. And she's really great about if I post videos or do these jumping on and showing support. She's another She actually is an author herself, but she's another supporter. So I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, we're all in this together. It's a struggle, no matter what position we're in at this time in life. We all have to help each other. We all have to support each other and lift each other up one way or another. And that is the ultimate goal of this podcast and doing this with each one of these authors.
Good. And I think every author who writes a book is hoping to give someone a chance to just kind of get wrapped up in a story that takes them away from their everyday life. And that was the goal here too. And I'm glad that everyone's writing. I'm glad that everyone's talking. It's a fabulous environment, this book talk environment. I didn't know much about it until I wrote this book, and I'm falling in love with it for a lot of reasons. Just because there's really nice people out there. There's people who share their stories and their heartaches about either reading or writing. So it's a really neat platform and a really good audience and a group of people. And it's fun to find people who are like you, who appreciate things and that's going on. So all good. All good.
That's awesome. And I truly appreciate you guys. Like I said, I mean, I was super appreciative that you even took the time out of your day to send me a copy of your book. Because you absolutely, I mean, you didn't have to do that. That was something that you was willing to do. And it warms my heart. I get so excited when one of my authors sends me one of their books, especially when they personalize it like you did. I mean? Like, you sent me the bookmark. You even wrote me a little note. I mean? You signed the book. You did an amazing job with delivering it, and I was so happy when it finally came in and when I had the chance to open it up and read it, because it allowed me to be able to kind of take a dive into your life and your head a little bit as well. And I think kind of being able to do this and talk back and forth and have this discussion with you, as it is with a lot of my other authors, it allows the readers and our followers and viewers to be able to connect with each one of you on a personal level. You're not just looking at it as an author. Now they get to see you as a person. They get to see you as another human being. And it makes you guys all that more real.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely real. Yeah, not in the artificial intelligence voice right now. Yeah, it's definitely me. But no, I appreciate that. It's funny. I sometimes in my mind I say, wow, it'd be nice if you had a forum where you get a couple of indie authors on, or two or three, and they talk about the different types of challenges and struggles, and you can kind of get behind the scenes too of some of how people write, because a lot of it's about the story, which is great. You're doing a fabulous job. I really appreciate it, of telling people how wholesome and how you loved the story of these people. But there's also sort of the story of the story, like how did it get there, and how did you struggle through this, and how did you get through the editing and the writing, and how did you get it published, and all the questions and decisions you have to go through to get there. Funny story, I've got a brother out in California who's writing a book as well, and he's he is struggling through his editing process. And I said, just keep pushing, find someone to help you do it. But, everything that I've gone through, he's now a couple steps behind me trying to get there, to get a book out. And he was a professional violinist who changed careers, and now he's writing a book about stuff like that. And it's just funny how everyone has similar struggles to get there and to get their stories out. But
Right.
yeah.
And it's kind of like that's something that I've noticed with a lot of the authors that I spoke to. I mean, once you just get to a point where you get that writer's block. I mean, you kind of hit that roadblock, and it's how do you get over that? I mean, how do you finish your story? And if that's something that you'd be willing, I mean, to share with us, then I love it. I mean, like, did you have was there any did you run into any situations like that? I mean, while you were writing Just Bounce It, was there any point throughout the book where you kind of struggled, or maybe caught yourself thinking, "Am I ever going to finish this?" What I mean? And if so, how did you get past that? How was you able to overcome it? Because your story might help. I mean, other authors that are facing the same experiences.
Right, right. I'll tell you, it's fun. A funny story is that literally the last chapter of the book I wrote first. And then I went backwards and kind of then went to the beginning, and then kind of came through the middle, and then struggled at different places. And I would go on train rides to work with my phone or wherever I was, and I would jot little notes when they came to me in my head about how to bring the story further and bring it together. It never gets out of your head once you start doing it. So, but some people are right at the beginning and they think they know where it's going, and then it goes someplace else. This one went from the end, which I knew where I wanted it to end, and I had to go back and make the story come together from there, which is kind of a bizarre thing. I'm writing a new book now that's actually starting from the beginning and trying to get to the end. So we'll see how that process goes. But
That's awesome. I love that you kind of did it backwards, because, like you said, I mean, you don't hear a lot of people doing that. A lot of people just kind of get the idea in their head and then they plot it out. So I love that you started with the end, like you knew how you wanted your story to wrap up, and based basically the whole rest of the storyline around that ending. So that's really different, and so I love that you did that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I just read a book. I'm sure other people have read it too, The Silent Patient. I don't know if people are out there reading that book, but it's one of these books that the ending was unbelievable. How to, just you get to the very end until the very last chapter, you don't know what the heck's going on. And I got to believe that author wrote that chapter first too, and said, "I'm gonna write this really crazy ending, and then have you get there." But yeah, no, that was kind of fun about the book, and I think when, as you said, you like the ending part, and I think people are really going to like the ending of this book, and
Yeah,
getting themselves to it. So
I
I
absolutely agree.
appreciate that. Yeah. You
Yeah,
tell
no,
me if you want me. I'm here as long as you want me. I don't know what kind of questions people are having, but I'm happy to continue talking about my book. I could talk all day about my book. I don't want to give away the whole plot, but I'd be happy to talk about more and more about it.
yeah.
As
Well, I know we did have one other question. Angie had asked, do you read any other genres, or what are some of your favorite genres?
Yeah. As I said, I do a lot of the sort of spy books, the Grisham books, the Clancy books, things like that. But I've read everything. I kind of read whenever I see popular books out, I'll just grab them and read them, and then see if I like them or not. I don't read romance books. It's not my thing. I don't read fantasy books. I tried to get into some, but it just didn't work for me. So I guess I'm just into. I love reading a wholesome book if I can find them and they're really good, like sort of like this one. I love reading that type of stuff. I don't. I don't really have a genre. I have a mix of a lot of different types of things. Um, yeah,
I'm the same way. It just kind of whatever sparks my interest at the time.
right, right. As I said, I read a bunch of different. I read the chemistry book this summer. I read the Yellow Phase. I read just different books that are out there. The Silent Patient. So they're all in different areas and they're all different types of things. But if I get into it, it's great. Sometimes I find myself reading 3 or 4 books at the same time because I get to a point where I hit a lull in a book. I don't want to I don't want to DNF it, as they say, but I'm not ready to finish it now. So I grab another book and I start reading that book, and then I might do the same thing. So sometimes I got 3 or 4 going at a time, and it's just the way my mind thinks
Yeah,
constantly. I think the biggest
totally
problem
guilty.
now for that question is I always, like I'm writing my new book now, that absorbs me. I'm trying to market this book, that absorbs me. I'm trying to do my regular full-time job, that absorbs me. So it's hard to find even like pleasure reading time to do that sometimes, you know?
Yeah, I can imagine. And the balance, because a lot of people forget, I mean, I think like I jokingly made a video not long ago, I mean, where I said that I always thought that authors were mythical creatures until I started doing these podcasts and getting to speak with each one of you. And I say that jokingly, but realistically, I think a lot of people forget that you authors are, in fact, real people. You have real lives with real jobs, I mean, real families. You have responsibilities that ultimately a lot of times come first before your books, unfortunately. You know what I mean? So, and that's a big struggle with a lot of indies is life is hard, and sometimes the challenges that we face in our everyday life overpower, what I mean, some of the goals that you guys have with putting your books out there and getting these finished. So each time that one of you is able to complete one of your books and publish it and get the works out there and spread the word, it makes me proud of you. You know what I mean? Because I know what a lot of you have to overcome to get to that point.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's funny, when I was younger, you used to walk into like Barnes and Noble and they had authors there who were setting up little stands and talking about their book. And I say, wow, that person's an author. How did they get that done? How did they write a book? Or how did they? And then you write it and you say, wow, it's a lot of work. I get what it takes to get there. But it feels good when you're done. I wish I could write like Colleen Hoover 10 books a year, just keep pumping them out, but I don't have either the time or the ability to do that. So I focus 4 years on one book and I get it to a point where I think it's really good and then get it out there. And I'll hopefully do the other one that I'm writing now a little faster, hopefully get it done in a year or two, or maybe quicker. But it's a lot of work, as you said, and life does get in the way. But I'm really happy that people like yourself and others get something out of it, feel good. It just makes my day. I always used to say, when I go to Amazon or someplace and I see that someone bought one of my books, it pops up on the report, just one book sale makes my whole couple of days in a row, just a big smile on my face to say that someone wanted to read it. And then when you see the review, it's even bigger. I jokingly put up a TikTok that said, 4 years writing 309 pages, 2 minutes reading 3 lines, one happy author, because the 3-line review was all I had to read to make me happy and just ecstatic. It wasn't all the hard work to get the book read. It was just reading the 3 lines. So anybody who reads my book and has a chance to review it, I'm always happy to hear what they have to say, because it always helps me, write better in the future. So,
Absolutely. And I always tell people to, I mean, and because we all know that not every book is for everybody. I mean, like there's going to be people that are going to pick up Just Bounce It and they're going to love it like I did. But then there's going to be people that it's just not really for. I mean, and I tell a lot of my readers that I pass these books on to, if it happens to be a book that's not for you, just be open with the author about it. I mean? And I feel like you maybe possibly one of them authors. I mean? Or you can tell an author that you didn't necessarily prefer their book without having to be rude. I mean? Sometimes they can take that as constructive. You know what I mean? And it helps them improve into their next book. You mean like there's so many ways that you could go about it. But
yeah.
honestly, I don't really think that you have too much to worry about with Just Bounce It, really, because I don't really think that there's going to be a reader that is going to pick up this book and isn't gonna like it.
Well, you're very sweet. I do. I appreciate the kind words. As I said, it's a little weird when you put your first book out because you're putting yourself out there. It's you sort of naked to the world, saying, "Here's my thoughts, like it or don't," But you kind of want to hear what people have to say, and it's very nice to hear positive things about the book. And as you said, I guarantee you that there's people who are out there who are, if they're into heavy romance or fantasy, they may say, "Oh, this isn't my genre. I'm starting to read it. I like it, but it's not really for me." But if you read about the book, like you listen to what you just said or talk about it, or you read about it on Amazon and read how it's written in the story, and that appeals to you, then give it a shot because I don't think you'll put it down. I think you'll read right through it and you'll really like it. And I hope you do. I hope a lot of people do, just for the perspective of helping them grow, helping them see that other people are going through challenges like they are. The woman coach, as I talked about, she's a coach, but she's also a parent and she's also a teacher. And teachers struggle every single day. I've got a daughter who's a teacher, struggling with, just dealing with keeping up with life with everything going on, and dealing with this other teacher in the book has depression, and those are things that everybody has to deal with. And how people come together and help each other is a story that can be told a million different ways. And this book, I think, has a nice way of capturing it and telling that story. So, do you like werewolf fantasy dark? No, sorry, I saw that question. That's not my thing. I don't think I've ever read a werewolf fantasy dark thing. I think the closest I've come is Scooby Doo when he come up into the werewolf situation. But I don't know if I've ever read one of those types of stories, Angie. Sorry, that has not been my genre.
And that's all right. That just kind of plays into, like we said, I mean, not every book is for everybody. You know what I mean? And that's kind of a prime example. You know what I mean? But the fact that just like you did, just because a book isn't for you, there are so many ways that you can say that, I mean, that is more effective than trying to put somebody down or just being rude. And I think that's the biggest part, I mean, of doing this is just to show support. We have all got to be supportive of each other.
Right, and I just because I haven't read a werewolf fantasy dark romance novel doesn't mean I won't pick one up one day and try it. It's just that that's not what I typically have
Maybe.
read. Yeah,
One might fall in your lap one day and you never know.
you never know. Exactly right. I'm open because I just again, as a writer, as other people are, you learn a lot from reading other people's books, and you read about their style and their pacing and how they craft stories. So it doesn't hurt to try different types of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Angie, she asked if you would like to her for or if you would like for her to help promote your book. She said you're welcome to join her group on Facebook.
Okay.
Thank you, Angie, for that. Like I said, I mean, each one of my authors that I have on here, whenever anybody takes the incentive to help kind of promote their book and spread the word, each and every one of you are appreciative of that. And I mean, I know David, like you said, I mean, you have so much going on that it's hard for you to be able to put the word out there as much as you'd like to. So anybody that is going to help and spread the word and get this amazing story out there, it is so incredibly appreciated from each and every one of you.
Oh, and I'll just, I can end this one here because I'm probably running out of time. But from a personal perspective, too, it's one of these funny stories where my kids said to me, "Dad, you're writing a book, you're crazy, you're never going to get it written." And my wife said to me, "You're writing a book, you're never going to get it written." And then I got it done and like, holy crap, he got the book written, And then my
Got it
one
written.
daughter, "How are you going to sell it, Dad? How are you going to get someone to buy the book?" And then people started buying the book. Said, "Oh my gosh, he's selling the book." So, I mean, I'm not a top 10 bestseller on New York Times yet, but I got them amazed that I actually got the book out. I feel proud about that too.
That's awesome. Hey, it's goals though. You know what I mean? Like we all gotta have goals, and if your goal in life is to get one of your books to the top seller list, this is just the beginning.
Just the beginning. Yeah. No, thank you. And again, thank you very much for the time on your show. And
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so
happy.
much for joining us. And again, for those of you who have been watching, Just Bounce It by David Lifsitz. And it's an incredible, heartwarming story. You know, what I mean, it's a great, uplifting story. It is available on KU and on Amazon. And if any of you would like any further information or a deeper dive under the cover, feel free to get a hold of David directly, Sparty Pants author here on TikTok, or David Lifsitz. You can email him as well. And again, David, thank you times a million for being here with us today and taking time out of your day. This has been great.
Yeah. If someone does want to email on Facebook, it's David.Lifsitz from them. So Lifsitz at Gmail. So happy to send something there if they want to connect that way directly. So thank you. Thank you very much. And we'll talk hopefully again soon. Be fun.
All right, sounds good. Thank you guys all for joining us. I hope you guys have an amazingly blessed day, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you.